My name is Christopher Stringini, and I'm from Wheaton, Illinois. I was born in Wheaton, and I grew up in Wheaton. From a really young age, my mom had me in the entertainment industry. She was one of those stage moms, I guess you could say. She had me doing modeling and all this stuff, little TV gigs and commercials and I don't know, lots of photo shoots and stuff like that. And it was fun when I was young. I did that all growing up. I probably started when I was like 3 years old. And then my mom thought it was a good idea we should, go fly out to California and try this whole thing called pilot season. And pilot season is like when they basically cast for new pilots for new TV shows and stuff that are coming out for the new season. So it's pilot season for all the casting. So we went out there and did the whole thing, took all these pictures and put a little resume together, got an agent and a manager. And, I had done a couple things throughout the years. I did some commercials, I got some close on some TV stuff, but nothing ever really came to fruition. So we were going to call it wraps. We were going to end it and kind of go home. Anyway, so yeah, my manager called the last day before we were supposed to go home, 3 years into it. And right before we were supposed to go home, she said, hey, Christopher, it's Janine Costin. Can you sing? I'm like, I don't know if I can sing. She's like, well, I need you to, learn a song. And this guy named Lou Pearlman is putting together a band. And she wanted me to go to audition. So we said, what the heck? So I learned this Backstreet Boys song. I think I listened to I Want It That Way probably 1,000 times over. It made me sick. I didn't have any experience with, quote unquote, performing or singing or anything like that. I went on this audition and, I sang in front of these two random strangers, and then they're like, come back at noon. Came back at noon, and I met Lou Pearlman, who was this character, and he kind of put together like Backstreet Boys and Sync and a bunch of stuff like that. So he was there, and he said, oh, wow, you're great, kid. You're just like Nick Carter, and, when can you be in Florida? So it was kind of like after that, we flew out to Orlando, and like 3 days later or something, my mom and I, and started this whole venture, which goes on and on. We moved in this house, and we started filming a reality show, and it was a big European company that was doing this reality show, and I guess it was I guess you could call it kind of like Making the Band, I suppose, where two European guys were trying to fill the fifth spot. There were 4 Americans, and 1 European guy was coming in. So they were doing kind of like an American Idol type casting out in Europe, trying to get kids to audition for the 5th role of this American boy band that was being put together by Lou Pearlman. But anyways, we did this thing. We recorded an album. We did our first show in Orlando, which was this kind of funny, we weren't really, it was all for TV, I guess. But the whole point of it is that while we were filming it in America, they were airing it simultaneously. Like we'd film for 2 weeks, and they'd be editing it and cutting it and sending it over to all these different channels, like our music channels, MTV, stuff like our VH1, and it was airing over there. So by the time we had finished our first album that we'd recorded in I think we were out there filming for 3 months, we released our first single simultaneously while they moved us over to Europe. They moved us over to Berlin, and that was our first base. But by the time we got there, everybody knew who we were, because this TV show was airing, this TV show was on. People knew who we were from the minute we got off the plane, and that's kind of how it went for about the next 6 years. It was just kind of constant touring, and didn't go home very much. We were just on the road constantly and performing, and we got to be successful, and it was a really great run. Throughout the years, things got, it was kind of rough for me. There were a lot of highs and a lot of lows. We were really successful. We won 3 Bravo Autos, which is a German award, which is kind of like their Moon Man, I suppose, their MTV Moon Man. I got to share microphones with Rihanna and be like, hey, can I get because we were at an event, at a big, what do they call those summer tours, Jingle Ball type things. Well, they did those, obviously throughout, summertime and stuff like that. So I got to meet a lot of really cool artists and people that I was, that I thought were really cool at the time. And I was young when I first got in the band. I was 18, I was just so naive, too, in the beginning. So, amongst doing really cool things and traveling all of Europe and going to Asia and, performing in front of lots and lots of people, there was obviously downsides. I think from the beginning, the idea that I had in my head of success in life was money and material and status. I thought that's what life was about. And I thought when you'd gain those things, you'd get happy. And I thought, well, the ultimate thing must be to be a celebrity, you know. So the idea of being a celebrity was cool, but I got into it, and when it actually like happened, it was a completely different story, you know. I was like, okay, well now I have every Louis Vuitton piece of luggage I could have. What is that gonna? Now what? You know, it was exciting for 15 minutes. Long story short, I had been, you know, I got into using drugs, lots of pills, and I started. My life just kind of came and crashed down on me. I never had anything in my life that was stable underneath me. I mean, I had a really good family, grew up in a great family, but I never had any type of, I don't know, what would you say? For me, like spiritual strength. I never had any type of real strength in my life. It was always just kind of, I was always on like, you know, sand. So when I got in this band and all that stuff started happening, my life just kind of slowly started kind of crumbling really quickly. Even though from the outside it all looked really great, on the inside it was just an absolute mess. So I got heavy into drugs and alcohol, and I had to have security with me literally 24/7. I always had to share rooms with adjoining rooms and open doors because, you know, they had to make sure Ritchie was okay to be on stage the next day. And that kind of went on for years and years. And there were times when it wasn't so bad. There were times when it was manageable. We only got like 2 weeks to go home for Christmas. We didn't get very long. And I would go home for Christmas, and I'd usually get myself into some sort of trouble and end up in the hospital. So after that, I ended up in rehab again for like the 5th or 6th time. And I knew at that moment that I remember talking to our management, and they said, you know, come back, you know, get it together and then come back so we can start recording and get going. And we just signed for like another couple of years or something. And I just knew at that moment, I knew I'd die if I went back. I knew I would die. I was like, I'm gonna die. So I said, okay, I'm either gonna live or I'm gonna die. And at that moment, it was kind of clear to me. It just all kind of became clear to me. And I said, I have to quit. You know, as great as it is, it's not worth my life. You know, and then I had some come to Jesus moments, and literally, so to speak. You know, I'm a Christian, and that, you know, Jesus is the only thing that has given me any type of peace and all that kind of stuff. So I think my faith has gotten me through all of that, and I knew it just, that day was done, and, you know, I knew that God had a different plan for me. So then I decided I wanted to be a nurse, because after being in so many hospitals and rehabs and psych wards, all the people that were so kind to me were the nurses, and I always appreciated them so much, and they helped me in such a time in a time that was so dark for me. You know, they really, you know, brought light to my life. So I want to be able to be there. I like helping people, and you know, I feel like I've been kind of through the whole, you know, I've just been through a whole plethora of life. You know what I mean? You might as well live life to the fullest, because you never know if you're going to wake up tomorrow. And you know, I thought that it was all about money, success, and everything. And it's really not. Life is so quick. And my dad told me, when you open your eyes, you're going to be 30 years old and you won't even realize it. And I remember thinking that, and as a 10-year-old boy standing in my dad's bedroom, I said, no way I'll ever be 30 years old. That's so old, you know. And sure enough, on November 28th of this coming November 28th, I'll be 30 years old. So life is way too fast, and life just goes by, and it just goes by faster and faster and faster. So, you know, here's my point, I guess, in the whole thing is that my time in Us 5 and all those successes I had, I would have traded all that, all the money, all the awesome, cool Louis Vuitton, all the shoes, all the fame, all the whatever. You could take it all back if I could have just to be clean and sober. If I could have continued time of sobriety, clean and sober, I would have given you everything. You could take back every stupid award. You could take back every shiny jacket that I had. Take it all back. Just give me sobriety. Give me God. Give me my friends and my family. At the end, you only have your family. Every other MFer is going to turn on you in life. Don't trust anybody. It's a sign.